Thokozani bogogo nabomkhulu. It's Thursday. A day late. My twasa left today, so you guys will probably excuse my ndumba. It's a mess. We were just really busy yesterday, and I know some of you are like, your twasa's left on a Thursday. And I'm going to one day give a teaching on my style of twasisa. And why, what motivated and why. So she left today. It's been wonderful. I've had her for a while and I was so excited. So I was thinking, today. I don't know what's the story. So we're doing a wrap up yesterday and I'm confident that she's going to do a very good job. Let's pray, because we need to pray for this one. We need to pray for today's class, and yeah. Rappeling. Jesu Kriste matla ohle wena khanya lefatshe wena re bulelang ditsela. Wena morena modimo ya etsang tsohle ke lebitse kaofela bonkgolo bo ntate moholo ba makubetse ba motjhali ba bogatsi ba go hlola. Re teleng pele nna bonkgolo bo ntate moholo kaofela manyelo e go tlontsene tsa lefatshe. Ebe wena morena modimo ya tla bua le bohle. Ebe wena tla re sisinya ka hare. Ebe wena tla re fa bohlale. Ka lebitso la le matla Jesu Kriste, amen. Thokozani. Okay, let's read Bible scripture. Okay. Bitso la ntate la morale ya mehalang, amen. Ke nna morena lena ke lebitso la ka. Nkeke ka neya e mong tlotla ya ka kapa medimo ya bohata tlotliso ya ka. Bonang tsa pele di se di fetile. Jwale ke le bolella tse ntjha. Ke le phatlaletsa tsona. Amen. I'm going to just leave it there. This is such a beautiful scripture where God, Mudimu, defines itself. Where God defines itself. It says, this is me. That my name is God. And I give nkeke kanea nkeke be kanea ye mong tlotla ya ka kapa medimo ya bohata. I will never give my identity to some other gods. I will never do that. It's so relevant to today's topic. I started it 2 weeks back and I was fumbling here and there, but today I managed to do a bit of reading, and I feel the scripture is so relevant to today, you know. Okay, so I'm going to end off where I started, only because my family members van phone it, but hey, where's on Facebook ring. So I'm going to start my topic where I ended it 2 weeks ago, so that we can wrap it up and I can give you guys the proper teaching today, and to maybe give you guys context. My uncles basketball, you know. So 2 weeks back, I actually explained to you guys that when I met my husband, when we started dating, and more so when the relationship got serious and got married, somebody in my in-laws family started a rumor, gore I'm a prostitute, gore ke rekisa mmele. And this rumor, I'm sure it's still going about, you know. It went on for years. So it was nothing said directly at me, but I would hear it through glimpses. Some family members, you know, would probably tell me when they're having their own issues with the rest of the family, that this is what's being said. And it was reiterated over and over. And you know, I never managed to live it down. It was just so bad. It was so bad. I think 2 years ago, I was phoning a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine from Israel, and as I was talking to her on the phone was on loudspeaker, and I'm talking to a distant cousin of my husband, and this distant cousin said, hang on, I swear na Larata. And I was like, yeah, what's up? And she said to me, "Are you the one on me?" My heart sank. My heart sank. It was like, this is not happening, you know. I felt like this had been spread to the entire family. And the moral of this, the point of this, is not to bad mouth anyone. The moral of this story is to give power to women. And, you know, I think my heart sank, and it took me years. So this is what happened. When the rumor started, I heard it, blah, blah, blah. It came to my attention indirectly. But what started to happen was that I started to succumb to this rumor. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, I started to try to prove that I'm not that I'm a young girl who got married. I've got a lot of dreams. I had started varsity. But I started, an innate part of me started to sort of believe that story. So I started to try to disprove it. And one of the first and longest things that I lost was my sense of identity. I had no sense of that. It happened over time. I was not even aware of it. I started to dress more like a makoti, dress more like a cultural woman. You know, I started to try. You know, I'd never been mopila pizza enzo. And look, it's not that I shouldn't. I tried so much with time to try to please and to make this rumor stop by showing what a good person I was. You know, so even when some things that I probably would have decided otherwise now were sort of asked or required of me, I agreed. This title started to become my slave master, and I became the slave. Sure, I can't tell you guys, I became so entrapped by this pseudo persona that had been created for me. And I would go explain myself over and over. No, but it's not like that. So here's the thing. My husband got married, got divorced, whatever the story, you know. And my coming into his life now sort of was like a comparison. And it didn't just become about me trying to be the good wife. It became about me needing validation. And with time, I started to lose myself to a point that, I mean, I remember some years ago, my husband would say, I stopped keeping contact with my friends because I was afraid that they would hear this rumor. If there were things, you know, at my in-laws, I wouldn't invite my friends. I'd just be there. I'd always been walking barefoot. I'd probably I'd try to be the better version of what Shebi is. I thought I was, you know, I was degenerating emotionally and psychologically. And I remember my grandmother coming one time, we had pabadi with my husband's at my in-laws, and she said nothing. She just looked at me, but I could just see the pain in her eyes. With time, my education, because I hadn't finished my BCom in accounting, it sort of fell in the background. With time, I became this perfect version of a cultural wife. I dropped my studies. I dropped my independence. I dropped everything. And that was not even the issue, right? The issue became I lost me. I lost me. And I want to say it's so funny that now with the spiritual gift, that's how I've started to reclaim who Lerato is and sort of to redefine who I am. I had no sense of self anymore. Everything was about making sure that archetype was killed. And the more I tried to kill it, the more it lived. You know, the more it lived. So, what does this have to do with feminism? What does this have to do with feminism? I got to go lolo into my sobi story. The realization that I gave up what I thought was the external. So makeup once in a while, you know, I was quite backwards. I still am, by the way. I'm still trying to find myself. I think for such a confident person, I have acquired anxiety over the years and a sense of inadequacy and a sense of displacement. So that would be my demon that I had acquired by choosing to accept this subliminally and agreeing to it subliminally. You know, here's the thing, when somebody presents something about you, you got two choices. You could really rubbish it away and say, listen, no, rubbish. But most of the time, a part of us that resonates with that statement, it perpetuates it. So I had a child, right? For those that know me from school, it was rough. Y'all know. It was ugly. And this just came as like a second blow, a second push from the universe to say, hang on, you're having self-doubt issues here, right? So what started as low self-esteem or feeling like I've disappointed my mom, it now escalated into low self-esteem and self-awareness issues and blah, 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 blah. So by the time I went to Twasa, I was a maniac, right? I didn't even know what was wrong with me. I was just an alcoholic. It was a problem. Because now what I had subliminally acquired and what I had subliminally consented to was now destroying me, like for real. So what does this have to do with feminism? I'm going to just say this. I read the definition of feminism. And I said it the last time that feminism is giving equal opportunities to women, right? And there is nothing wrong with feminism. Absolutely nothing wrong. I think, like I said in my previous video, feminism and giving equal opportunities to women, equal and not same opportunities to women, is what femininity is. But what I found over time, and I'm going to prove this to you guys, is that the problem, the only loophole, feminism, is that the feminist woman has not been given the opportunity to actualize. I was not even aware of what that meant until my friends around me now recently, and until I'm going through readings, that I realize what that means. Okay. So what actualizing means is to make something real or giving the appearance of reality. So what that means is to make your goals, your dreams, whatever, real. If you want to turn yourself into Lukhoa, like what Michael Jackson decided to do, he decided to go white. He actualized it. And he proved to all of us that, listen, you can go from black to white, right? We all looked down upon him for the choice that he made, assuming that he was ashamed of his race. But we were not looking at actualizing. And let me tell you, Bokokona Bomkulu, actualizing is so important. Even God demonstrates it. Okay, how does God do that? We are the differentiations of God. The infinite source has remained, has been itself for itself all along. The being knew itself all along. There was never a time that God was never God, or the source was never the source. The source was itself, even outside of the time when there was a definition, because the definition is for us. So what the source decided to do, having being, it decided to actualize. What does that mean? It means let us make man in our image. The source thought to itself, let me create the reality of what I am. Hence, I am what I am. The source created nature. The source created people. The source created all of this as a point or a way to actualize itself at many different life levels, at many different dimensions of spirituality. The source felt itself to actualize as well. So actualizing actually is the definition of God. That's what it is. Actualizing is God making itself. And for actualization to happen, the source then said, I will, amongst the many actualized versions of me, I will add polarity, top and bottom, rich and poor. And what I will do is that I will create names, right? And what I will also do is that as I actualize, so too should these differentiations. So here's the scary thing. The universe, the energy of the universe actualizes itself through us. Okay, I know it doesn't make sense what I'm saying right now. Here's a good example. Choosing to be Moloi for whatever the reason is actualizing, by the way. And that is why there is such incredible power behind Moloi. Choosing to be Moloi is actualizing because the person, right, completely ignoring the source within itself, the source within all of us. In actual fact, the source itself, God, then says, in that unit part of the whole, I will allow myself to actualize into what the polarity of evil would be. And as the different components of God, all of us in this universe, then we say, as the collective of God, yes, we need the actualization of Buloi. Because without Buloi, there is no real definition of Bungak. So actualization is paramount. And I guess now what I'm sort of saying, I'm sort of twisting the topic of feminism a bit. But what I'm trying to say is that we could have, as a society, we could view feminism as a way to give equal opportunities. The problem or the link, the problem with feminism is that the actualization, the female version unit of actualizing itself into a particular career, profession, whatever, choice, whatever, is what is really lacking at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to start on a shallow note. I went through history and I wanted to read, and I'm going to just try to read and tell you of these amazing women. But on the shallow note. So we also this past week, of this lady, Antiwa. You know, get out of my fucking car. Hey, you know? And two things struck me about that video. That woman, Idlozi, like it was making a divine intervention on her behalf. Because the very act of, let's say, sending yourself money, got somebody's card, or blackmailing somebody, the very act of doing that is assuming that you are in lack. So it was a lack mentality. That's the fundamental part. Secondly, the lack mentality is sort of spurred on by her lack of actualization. If you know the power that you've got in actualizing, then you will not necessarily require the manipulation of the next person. To manipulate, whether directly or indirectly, and like I said 2 weeks back, slave queen is a slave mentality. It is. We just saw it this past week. So in actual fact, we're seeing this lady, like, okay, we're all really upset about it. It's like, hey, what is she doing? But what we're not seeing is that it's a cry for help. It is the cry of a person, an entity that does not know and has not bothered to invest its spiritual, emotional, psychological time in actualizing. If she knew that one day, or not even one day, if she knew that all it took was a lottery ticket for her God to give her money, she would never go around taking it that way. Food for thought. So maybe what we should be all doing as spiritual people, I want that video here, get out of my fucking car. We should actually be trying to connect with that lady's ancestors, because I can promise you guys, that lady unale spiritual prophetic gift. I don't know it. When I saw the video, I just went, oh women. Okay, long story. I'm not gonna sit and make myself more prophet or good. Okay. Let me jump on to the next one. The first African prophetess, very interesting. First African prophetess was South African. This lady was born in 1875. That is so interesting. So she was born in 1875. Her name was Nonte Tankwenkwe. We don't even know about her and about prophet. And we are spiritual people. So this lady, she had lost her husband. Isn't that interesting? When she lost her husband and she was poor, and went through grief, that's when this supposed, spiritual gift began. She started abonsiwe, right? And she became the first prophetess. And apparently, I just don't know it. Most of us don't know it. But what is interesting was that initially when she became sort of popular, first she was having issues from her male counterpart prophets, and she was having support of the colonizer at the time. She's doing remarkable work and preaching the word. Except with time, she started to sort of use the word or the colonizer's book to awaken Africans, and sort of giving them the understanding that money, material wealth is nothing. Now, this lady is a African female version of Jesus. And what the colonizer started to realize was that she was now mobilizing people, groups, to stand up for their God-given right to actualize. And that meant that they were not working as hard. So eventually what happened with this lady was that the system put her in a mental asylum. She stayed in a mental asylum. She was pushed there, and now this prophetic voices that she was hearing were now said to her she's insane, and she was institutionalized until she died. Isn't that sad? Now, what is very funny is that Nonteta's work was actually the beginning of research into African divinity. Most of us now, when the Witchcraft Act came up, Nonteta's work started the definition of to divine. So her work was even done before Abangoma, were recognized. She actually may have been the woman who paved the way of what we call Bongaka today. Because she was Nasa Twasiswa, had gone through Mundau, death and loss of her husband. So trauma had been there. And she started her work without being given anything. Now, what are the chances that this woman was not also the pioneer behind Eminyimiti? I'll give you guys a very, very big clue. One of the most active ingredients, Molipulu, is a plant called Ibububu. That's a Xhosa plant, by the way. Most people don't know that. It's a Xhosa plant. and it's said to be a dream plant. Now, what are the chances that this lady was not maybe through prophetically told, because she later became Igedla and a herbalist, well, it's the same thing, and a seer into future prophecies. So we already had our own version of a female Nostradamus. And in the end, all they could do was institutionalize her. Very sad. The first female doctor, I tried to actually Google it and find out, but in Africa, of African origin, she was Elizabeth Awoliyi Abimbola. This was a lady from Nigeria. She was the first female doctor to practice. I don't know why I didn't write the date. I think it could have been very interesting. However, she wasn't the first African woman in the world, because go United States, there was a lady, I think, I forgot what her name was. She practiced in the 1800s. The first woman to buy a car. This is very interesting. So the first woman to buy a car, I don't think she could drive it, she bought it, was Mrs. Tinubu. Mrs. Tinubu. In 1834. This lady was a very rich woman. However, she was running a slave trade business. Isn't that interesting? She made her money from trading slaves to the Europeans. And the car that she bought was for trading 500 slaves. So again, okay, we can call her an evil woman. She was, Now we look back and we're all ashamed. But she became the first woman in Africa to drive a car. 1834, so interesting, right? That she was born. However, in the same country, I think this is in Nigeria, in the same country, the first woman to drive the car was Mrs. Funmilayo. Mrs. Funmilayo. Apparently, she was an activist into equality and that type of thing. And so interesting that unlike Mrs. Tinubu, the latter lady, she got thrown off a building. So what is the trend here about female rights? Okay, I'm gonna try to sort of draw the similarities. Okay, the first millionaire was Madam Walker. She was also African American. African American, born 1867, and she made money from the first wigs. So she was a millionaire, first black millionaire. Very interesting. First lesbian. I believe, I'm not quite sure because I was not getting like proper info, but the earliest that I could find was Gladys Bentley. She was the first lesbian, and she was a performer. She would perform into the arts and that. Also an activist. But what I want to show us Africans and feminism and badimo. What is the link here? Whenever an African woman did whatever work that spoke against oppression, she would become institutionalized or killed one way or another. So let me say it like this. Today we will say Basadi, or not even today, the last maybe 400 years, women have been, ostracized, treated badly. As African women, we've said it's probably because of patriarchy, and that women being mutilated, their vaginas. African women have always been seen throughout the world as the most oppressed, as the most ostracized. And the reason why I wanted to go through this topic was because I wanted to see what do they say about this and what does history say, right? But if you look at history, you can see that in actual fact, in Africa, there was no thing as patriarchy. Patriarchy came with colonization as well. Patriarchy came with colonization as well. And I will further prove this even before colonization with William Lynch's letter of how to create a slave. He says that you get each gender to sort of turn from the other. I explained 2 weeks back that now if you see your man being beaten and you get pregnant with a boy child, you will try to subjugate your son so that he will not be subjected to that kind of beating. If it's a daughter, you will try to get her to be, not to be married and that. And, now it's sort of showing us where we are getting all these concepts now of don't play with boys are dangerous and that. So if you think about it, in Africa, what's that tribe? I read about them. I think it's the Wadadi nomads. Wow. Wadabi nomads. So what that tribe does is that the men are the ones who dress up for like something similar to the Swaziland's break dance. The men are the ones who dress up. That's Hasa makeup. They make themselves look good. They train for an entire year for that for their ritual dance. And what they do is that now, I don't know if it's the queen or the reigning woman, they actually perform for her. And she gets to choose whichever man that wins. And the winner gets to sleep with her. Whether it's for a night or what, I'm not quite sure. But I remember reading up on it, even if she's married, then her husband must allow her if she is the person who chooses, right? If she is the daughter of Wodadi mother and father union, Rit dance union, then she will be able to choose the next champion. So she can be married and choose to be with that man for one night. I'm not at all saying that we should be, promoting, buffet or anything, because I know that polyandry has been something that, now we've been talking about it like, having two men, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about what I found reading in history. What I also found interesting was that in ancient Kush, so the Kushites would be Sub-Sahara Africa. These would be your Ethiopians and that. The queen mother is the one who chooses the pharaoh. But this is how the pharaoh, being a male, is chosen. So the king's son is not going to be the heir of the throne. The king's sister's son is the heir of the throne. And apparently their logic is simple. You may not know the paternity of a child, but you will definitely know the maternity of a child. Isn't that interesting? I mean, now you look at why Badimu now say, whether your father was there or not, most of the time spiritual things that we need to do for Badimu start mamaron. And our mother's dad, granddad, always has something like, it's always a significant role model in your spiritual journey. So I guess now they also believed now wana kwa mawe. You look at the Rain Queen Mujaji. Today we think what she's doing, what that matrilineal has been doing. It's not that. It's not Mutlolo. In actual fact, reading through hordes and hordes, like lots and lots and lots of info online, I found that in Africa, up and until colonization arrived, women were the rulers of society. And look, I'm not saying we should go back to that society, right? I'm saying that Badimu now are saying to us women that we should sort of assume that role again. Not to be able to not that. In African spirituality, if you want to simulate your journey, always start with your mother's family. You know, for the first time, I got to understand why Abangoma. There are some Abangoma who don't have their mother or their father present both. I also got to understand why sometimes the father that you knew or your stepfather, he becomes important in your spirituality and steps in as a father figure. Even Lukobatimu. I also got to understand that sometimes to know your blood father's surname or your blood father's lineage may not necessarily mean may not mean that. So what is my only criticism with regards to feminism in the African context? Here's my only criticism. And I believe it's a criticism based on definition. What we are calling feminism today is not about actualization of women. And it's not about giving women equal opportunities. It is about now taking that oppressed daughter's mindset, filling her with things, money, whatever, and then telling her that she can grow her worth from there. That is a serious problem. It is taking that angry daughter, telling her that her looks are what gives her the edge over other women to win the heart of a man. That is a problem. That is a slave's mentality. So, should you be independent and actualized? Yes. Go and study. Go do whatever you like. You know, if you choose not to get married, hey, you know, the stats say it's 7 women to 1. You know, there's another 6 who would like that opportunity. However, do you now take that and use it as a way to treat men as punching bags, emotional punching bags? No. I leave you guys with something very interesting. My husband likes to say this. He says, you know, Basadi, you guys are crazy. You don't know what you want. You know, whatever he'll tell me, you know, you guys, you know, all of these systems are created by you guys. He's partially right. You know, they're not created by us. Colonization has created a subliminally patriarchal system. And yes, because we have taken the slave wife's mindset, we perpetuate it. Yes, we do. But I remember saying to my husband, you know, I think Mkulu, it's not fair for us as women in general, purely from the fact that the biggest challenge that women are facing is actualization. And outside of that, you cannot be. You cannot be. I'm going to leave you guys also with another, you know, parting words. That it is through my spiritual gift that I really see who Lerato is. And looking back now, I can't believe how naive I was till she kept, you know, allow people to dupe me into believing that being anything outside of what this life experience is for me is wrong. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Because I look back now, that was a slavery mentality. So, are saying, let us have the tools to actualize so that we can create a better system become proper feminists. You know, right now, feminism in the African context is greatly misunderstood. I do believe that there are a lot of feminists, but Harutu sees what that means, right? We think feminism means don't scratch another woman because she wants to be with your man. That's not feminism. That's jealousy can to everybody. You know, you want to scratch her, Lilwani. But I think that if we can look at it from a Badimu point of view, where they say, apara duku, cover your shoulders, wear a long dress. Not because we don't think you've got a nice body, but because we want something deeper within you to connect with other people. And that on its own will help us from being modikoloto. Because, you know, if you don't have to please your appearance, hey, if you've actualized, what you look like. If you've actualized, the purpose of your work becomes more important. So let's follow this journey, and let us be brave. Let me say it like that. And let us refrain from lack mentalities. So you saying, I'm richer than you, ulimusad to a man. It is a lack mentality, because love actually means for whatever the qualities that you love. You saying that I will not do this, I will not do that. You choosing not to meet your partner halfway, because it's a lack mentality. However, I will also go on the opposite end to say, they will strangle you. It's one of the biggest problems that I'm seeing with a lot of my patients. Fat and sit is a problem. Not because they need your worth to be quantified. No. But they need to have certain ancestral rites done, which are done kamadi. Right? Kamadi to be done, so that even with your spirituality, things should go well. Getting married without konyala nakasetsu, also problematic. Having, children, and we're not married to baby daddy, and we're just allowing baby daddy to come back with without dintlaulo. It's a problem. It's a problem. Whether you hate that parent or not, baby daddy or not, baby daddy sanse ahlaule. But baby daddy, or whether you love that woman or not, it doesn't matter. But at no point will that make that child yours. So I guess, previously I remember growing up, I used to think that African culture is so oppressive to women. And now I see slowly that African spirituality is actually liberating women to such an extent. All these things that we see now are misunderstandings that the slave master really helped us to get to. I mean, hey, where's that today? If William Lynch managed to say in 1712 that turning race and genders and age and skin color against the slaves means that the slaves themselves will perpetuate this abuse. The slaves themselves will hate one another and have such adoration to the slave master. And the slave master, or the person overseeing the slaves, should be generally distrusting of the slaves. Right? Yet the slave will love only the master and forsake others because of gender, color, whatever. If William Lynch managed to predict, because this was a prediction, after, I mean, this guy must have been a psychologist. If he managed to predict that we would continue to perpetuate the system for hundreds and even thousands of years, then we should really be looking at ourselves as African spiritualists to say, what is it that Badimu are trying to teach us? The reason why Badimu have never been interested in teaching us slavery is because they can see that we are still enslaved. So, Bokoko na Bomkulu, I hope that we will see each other, males and females, basadi le banna, and give each other the respect that we deserve. But as men or women, when you don't get the respect that you deserve from the next person, you must remember that the source within you chose to actualize itself. And that means at any point, you could make whatever decision a reality. If you're going to make that decision changing a name or a surname, let's say it like that, make sure you've got guidance. And by the way, you don't just change a name or a surname. You need to partner it. And to all women, let's go out and let's educate ourselves. You know, you know, they are men. And besides, dick is a gift from God. That's what. And sometimes we forget that, right? So let us go out there and be our best and do our best, and protect our children. And remember, hore bana kiba bomni. You know, let us not become subject to trying to live a lifestyle based on, you know, manipulating others. I was personally really embarrassed by that lady, but hey, you know, it doesn't matter. It's done now. The intervention on her part, she should actually thank them. Whoever this lady is, if you guys know her, let me forward it in this video. Because now you're about to find out who you really are. So Togazani, have a great Thursday. See you guys next week, Wednesday. A juicy topic, bring us back into spirituality directly. I think you guys are missing that. You know, maybe get a topic yamapai or something. Togazani bokoko na bomkulu. Have a great Thursday. See you guys next week. And stay good. Let's all stay very good to each other. Togazani.